Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show, everybody. This is Dr. Bernard Alvarez with my lovely co-host Yvonne Wykes and Reverend Trevor Knott, and we're speaking to our Joan of Arc of Chemtrails, where Ms. Roxy Lopez is going to be joining us for the rest of the show today for the next hour. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Roxy, and I don't know if there's really an answer to this, but I wanted to touch on the fact that, day before yesterday, or maybe 3 days ago, we had a huge spray day here, and I posted tons of pictures. As a matter of fact, one of them was picked up by someone that made a poster out of it. But one of the things that I noticed when it's that heavy, and I don't know if it has to do with the fact that it's such a heavy spray day, but there seems to be specific trails that literally look like they're falling down. I mean, you can see the streams falling down. It looks like little wisps coming down to the earth and falling. Has anyone figured out, is there something different in that? Is there an atmospheric condition, or are we just finally noticing the differences, and that's as far as we've gotten so far?
Well, that's a really, really good question. To start with, I started filming those types of clouds that I know what you're talking about. It's a line that goes across the sky, then it spreads out and sort of hangs, and then all of a sudden you see these wispies, basically almost like rain going all the way down to the ground. And they're huge. These things are huge. And I started filming those a couple of years ago. Those were actually some of my very first photos of a chemtrail. And then I didn't see them for a very long time. I just never saw them. And those types are coming back again. Is there a difference in what they're doing? That's a real hard answer, because what we do know is that there are many types of programs out there. This much we know. We know that they're doing weather modification, cloud seeding, geoengineering can be, maybe trying to clean up this section of the planet or whatever. I don't know. I don't rule that out. Or they're trying to test a biochemical on the public. There are so many programs, so many companies, so many planes. We've got Evergreen in the picture. We're identifying Boeing after Boeing, airplanes. A gentleman called on one of the shows I was doing with Anthony J. Hilder, and he flat out said that he had some information because he knew of 857 Boeing planes, new planes that were getting retrofitted for aerosol canisters. And that he could document it, he could prove it to us.
Yeah, if I remember correctly,
right?
he was in the military, right?
Yeah. And by the way, we were all going to get in touch with him, and I did respond to him, and gave him my phone number and all the rest of it. I have never spoken to the man, so I don't know where the man went, but I'm still, he's still on the list of people to get in touch with. So, in other words, what we're seeing in the sky, if we see a fluffy one or a milky one or one that's going across the sky and dripping straight to the ground, all the way to the ground, whether it be a crisscross, a tic-tac-toe, several lines in a row, several planes doing it all at once, what is it? We don't know. There's just so many different programs at this point. I don't have an answer, so and I don't know that we're ever going to have an answer. So at this point, I divert my attention to what's in the soil, what's in the water, which brings me to what we're doing right now.
Yes, yeah. Why don't you share a little bit with us, as far as chemwebs? What is? First of all, can you describe a chemweb for us?
October of 2010, a gentleman named Jerry Neiman from McCook, Nebraska, was sending me quite a few emails about a web substance that he was finding in his, trees. And, of course, most people think it's spiderweb material. Now, when they see it, just the normal person walking out to the car and seeing, they just assume it's spiderweb. And so he sent me some photos, and this was very thick, and I compare it to, and we just had Halloween, so this will be fresh in everybody's mind, the webbing, the polyester, whatever that is, webbing that we buy to stick on our plants in our house for Halloween.
Mm.
It looks just like that. It's really thick, and it doesn't even look real. It looks fake. It doesn't look like a spider web. Anyway, if people want to see pictures of that, there is my latest video covering this, and the call to action is on our website. It's on the front page of our website, as a matter of fact. We've moved it there, and we're going to move the call to action there on the front page later on tonight after we get some information about the where, why, and how. But that'll be up there tonight. So anybody that wants to see what this ChemWeb material looks like, they can go there. But let's talk about October 2010. What happened in October 2010 is, as you well know, we work with Caroline Carter out in Cyprus. The country is Cyprus. Caroline Carter is a Morgellons testing for Morgellons. Now I'm going to take you just a little step back here so we can draw a nice big picture, a nice big circle for people to understand. Caroline Carter, at that time, we didn't know what to do with this web, but we already had trusting relationship with Caroline, so she volunteered to test this web that was collected by Jerry Neiman. So we had that bagged up. We have the footage of that. We sent it to Cyprus. Caroline Carter tested it, and what it tested positive for was genetically modified organisms.
Mm.
All right. So what would that be doing in a chem web? I'm sorry, in a web, a spider web. All right.
Even a polyester web.
That's right. Any web. But at that point, she had a Morgellons outbreak. She nearly died. She suffered severely. Hence, when I interviewed her about a month and a half ago, we were still on that page of, she obviously not interested in testing webs at this point because she had such a severe reaction to it. And if anyone wants to see what she tested, how she tested it, look at the video called Live Fiber. She films the actual growth of a Morgellons fiber.
Mm.
All right, in this web. All right, so our studies sort of were on hold at that point as far as chemwebs go. Nobody was reporting them anymore and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, lo and behold, October 2011, not only is Jerry Neiman reporting chemwebs, several states. All right, so then we decide to look into this deeper. Again, if you want to see what an actual chem web looks like, just go to the front page of The Truth Denied, www.thetruthDenied.com. The video is right there. It explains everything for you. And if you want to go back into Caroline Carter's studies, just go to the YouTube channel, pull up Live Fiber or the documentation of Part 1 and Part 2. All right? You can get all caught up. Where are we today? Here's where we are today. A gentleman named John White from the Chemtrail Project approaches me. And he approaches me on another level. He's doing rain and water, water sampling testing.
I think he's in our chat room. WHYTE?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, hi, John.
Hi,
He's
John.
listening.
So, what happened is when John White and I started to speak, John's an awesome guy. Another warrior in the game, another spiritualist in the game, so to speak, the game.
Right.
And just easy to understand, easy, we clicked. Like Caroline Carter and I click, like Jerry Neiman and I click. All right. So what we did is we had some discussions, and lo and behold, we decided to test the chemwebs again. To do a call for action and a certain protocol as well. And that protocol is also going to be later on tonight. That protocol is going to be listed right underneath that video. All right. There's a strict protocol for how to collect a web and what we need. It's called chain of custody.
Right.
And we'll have more information later on tonight as to where we're going next. But we would like to test more chemwebs. Caroline Carter is now involved. And Caroline Carter also has another aspect that's coming into this. because on her plants, she had a cactus plant outside, she noticed little crystals sparkling on the cactus plant. And now she is actually studying what those crystals are. They don't appear to be. They appear to be some sort of synthetic. So we're also looking into these little crystals that are falling. Mm-hmm. And in the rainwater, in a nutshell, there are individuals who are collecting rainwater in a sterile jar and finding out that it's a little bit cloudy and there's something in there, and then all of a sudden whatever's in there is actually growing a fiber. Oh, wow. And there's an individual, and I'm not naming names right now for a reason. I will name names later on down the road as we stack our data and our evidence. But there's another individual who's a chemist and very in tune to how to take a look at it. There's a blue fiber growing in one of their water samples, and as we all know by now, via Caroline Carter's work, a blue fiber is Morgellons.
Oh, wow.
So how are we getting this in rainwater? We don't know. I have my theories. I have my hypothesis. And by the way, this is opening up a whole other can of worms, as you can imagine. And I'll say for the record at this point, I don't mind being wrong about this, but my feeling is that the genetically modified organisms, in part, are a runoff from crop fields.
Yeah.
That are using GMO seeds. And I'm starting to believe at this point, on an intuitive level, that GMO is in our drinking water.
Now, let me ask you, I'm trying to make a connection here now. Let me ask you this. GMO is basically, who owns the patents for GMO? Mostly Monsanto?
Oh, there's quite a few places. I mean, and DuPont and et cetera.
Oh, okay.
You can go down the rabbit hole.
If you had made speaking of going down the rabbit hole, that's exactly what I'm trying to do here.
Gotcha.
Did you make a connection between the GMOs and maybe Monsanto and Nalco, the makers of Corexit? Because I think, if I remember correctly on one of your broadcasts, even without discussing Corexit, that you had made a discovery that Nalco might have been one of the aerosol creators for chemtrails. Is there any connection to Monsanto or any kind of GMO there that we have found yet?
Okay.
But the possibility is obvious, of course.
If you're talking about Corexit, all I know, I do not, I'm not the hands-on in the Gulf.
Right.
But I will say that there are several who are, and who are studying Corexit and patients in the Gulf. And they're finding GMO substances and growth in people's stomachs and colons, etc. So they're making a connection, and I believe that even Dr. Robin Falkove is working with somebody as well on the Gulf situation, and they've continued that journey to aid those in the Gulf. As far as companies go, let me tell you something, just like anything else, you find this company, and then you find that, it's got a subsidiary to this company called this name and that name, and it's, you keep going down that rabbit hole to prove this company is actually in bed with this company, which is actually in bed with this corporation, who's actually in bed with the lobbyists who are in bed with the government. I mean, it never ends.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So at this point, to answer the question, I think to be careful. Do we have a direct correlation with Monsanto? Let's prove it first before I open my big mouth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be absolutely sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt at this point when you start naming names. But, Monsanto's not all that it's cracked up to be. Let's look at Monsanto. John White and I were talking about this one night, all right? So let's say Monsanto's involved. Well, we know Monsanto does the GMO, which is genetically modified organism seeds. All right, we know what genetically modified organism seeds are. What they are is they can these seeds for starters don't produce fruit that have seeds, so the farmers have to buy them every year. So the plants don't grow another plant. They have to replant these seeds. That's number one. Number two is we already know that in the genetically modified seed does exist the pesticide. It's not like the pesticide and the fertilizer went away. It's built into the seed. The seed is beefed up so it can withstand, I don't know, a nuclear war, for Christ's sake. I don't know what it can withstand. It's so, but it can withstand, acidic soils and imbalanced pH and this, that, and the other thing, blah. And then, off of that, we have the problems with the bees now and the pollinations and da. It just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, and many of my colleagues, this isn't good. It isn't good for the soil. It isn't good for us. We don't even know the side effects of it, and that the FDA doesn't even have to pass a law that anything in our grocery stores, especially produce sections, don't have to be labeled GMO. I mean, come on.
Mm.
Why not? I as a citizen, I don't have a right to know that this is a GMO, genetically modified broccoli.
Right.
But see, I think they got us ready for all of this when they were hybriding. Like all of a sudden we have a broccoli, an orange broccoli.
Right.
Oh boy, isn't this fun? And then you've got the government saying, they would never do, what was it called, cloning with human beings. But they were doing it with sheep and this and that and that and all this. And they're really standing firm that would not happen with, but we're growing, our own kidneys in a petri dish now. What's that?
Yeah.
That's cloning an organ. Okay, and that doesn't mean it's all bad, and it doesn't mean it's all good.
Now, technology isn't evil in itself.
There's the opportunists, as we were talking about earlier, in between that can make money off of all of this. There's pharmaceuticals that can make money off of viruses. There's and off the cure, let's say. It's just such a tangled web, if you will, of information that doesn't trickle down to the people. That's all. We are unaware of how much is going on in any way. And I know I got off the track a little bit here, but to prove the point of the GMO. And again, as far as what we're doing at this point, we have a couple of calls for actions. I'm sorry if I have a glass of rainwater in my refrigerator, with a jar, closed tight, and I see it starting to grow some things. I mean, even if I didn't know about GMO or Morgellons or fibers or synthetic fibers and all the rest of it, I'm sorry, that would be alarming to me. I'd be like, whoa, what's growing in the water?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Rainwater. It doesn't mean that it's something really, really bad. But at the same token, I have my feelings and my hypothesis on this, and until we can move forward and prove this, and with scientific backup, with scientific data, all we're requesting from the public at this point is if you see a chem web, and that's what we're calling it for now, or this white thick substance, and you'd like to collect it for us so that we can do lab testing on it, or rainwater as well. The protocols are in place. We will have those posted on the websites. Chemtrail Project, John White's organization is also involved. He will also have this information readily available for us, plus the test kits. John White has really stepped up to the plate. He's given test kits to people, just given them, and the protocols so that we can document this. So what I am saying at this point is where we need the public's help is in the collecting of this data, whether it be rainwater and the chain of command, the chain of custody that we need followed. It's not too extensive. Everyone can do it so that we can continue to test. And we will, unlike these agencies like the EPA and NOAA and NASA and all the rest of it, we will expose those results. We will write them up. We will let the public know what is happening, what we are finding. We are going to be an open book. Just let us collect this and let us get our data correct, and let us do our scientific research on this first before we go surmising anything.
Right.
Caroline Carter's also involved in the testing a web again. God bless her. and for certain components now, and she's testing the crystal, and she's also testing human blood. Now, if anybody needs to get tested for Morgellons, all we need is a hair sample. And we can test you if you're positive for Morgellons or whatever. Now, Caroline Carter is the front line on Morgellons. As far as I'm concerned, she feels that Morgellons isn't even a real name. She thinks it should be called genetically modified organism disease. And she said if we called it by what it really is, genetically modified organism disease, more people would wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really sends an alarm and a chill down my spine when you say it like that, genetically modified organism disease. Didn't we hear, was it last year? I mean, it was Joni Mitchell that came out and said that she had ended up with Morgellons.
Yeah.
It'd be great to have someone like her speak about it and maybe figure out maybe how she caught it or what her ideas were. I don't know. But that would be, I guess, for another camp to do. But, Roxy, let me ask you, and I know recently there was a conference in Orlando that Michael Murphy went to, and I never heard the conclusion of that. I think I heard a snippet that they admitted they were doing geoengineering, and I think that's all I heard. Were you able to follow up on any of that conference?
We've been speaking about that, and basically it's the same as it ever was. If you attend a conference like that, there is an admittance of geoengineering, but they're not exposing all their players, and they're not exposing their agenda. Basically, that geoengineering exists, which we all know because they have the conferences all the time. They had one in San Diego not too long ago, and I think as far as Michael goes, either Michael will come on one of our shows and really get explain what all of that means. It seriously just means that it does exist, and geoengineering in particular. But again, the geoengineering programs are so widespread now that there's many different agendas, and then there's a collective agenda. And of course, Mike Murphy, not to put words in Michael's mouth, but Michael Murphy believes beyond a shadow of a doubt that the number one agenda is to eliminate a good amount of the population on this planet.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are concerned about that.
A genocide, if you will.
Yeah, like a slow kill, or one of the conversations I was having with one of our fellow occupiers, which I found very exciting to speak with someone here locally that could keep up with this type of a conversation, and I'm sure there's hundreds more that I just haven't met yet, but they were making reference how perhaps these chemtrail hazes or whatnot could be linked to HAARP. And perhaps some type of, mass kill or something in that particular way, or at least messing up with our electromagnetic field and screwing with our brains type stuff. So I don't know. Have you guys made any connections with HAARP, at least in any of your past years of work?
Well, as far as HAARP is concerned, I'll say this: we get a lot of reports of things called chembows and HAARP bows, which is, and it's pretty fascinating. Basically, you've got like some chemtrailing that day, and then at a certain time, and I photographed it myself, you'll have a vertical line going from the ground up.
Yeah, I've seen that. A
colored vertical line, and you think, well, what's that? The rainbow's going the wrong way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of horizontally. So, I actually filmed a rainbow one day, and believe me, I've seen these before, long before I knew about chemtrails. You'll see the double rainbow, so 8 lines of a rainbow going horizontally, but it's curious. It's just curious that we're seeing more and more of that, and then the vertical line after some heavy chem spraying of what appears to be literally like a light that's either coming from the top of that cloud going down to the ground or the other way around, and basically becoming visible to the human eye. It's absolutely visible to the human eye. So we don't know what this is, but again, Mark McCandlish is great at dissecting what you refer to as the electromagnetic field, because we have it, and then electromagnetic pulses, and then we've got EMF and ELF and wireless towers and computers and 6.0 megahertz phones in homes, that are supposedly carrying a huge, you've got smart meters with radiation and toxicity. So where do you begin?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And and then when it comes to HARP, what was it in the last year? I think Howard Stein mentioned that, that they bought another like billion watts or mega billion watts. What are they using that for? I mean, and then there was I think it was Andrew Weber who did an interview with the gentleman who actually developed, the HARP system, and he admitted that what it's being used for today is not what it was intended to use. And then you've got CERN, CERN. I mean, so you can understand where everyone can ask us the questions, and I definitely see the reports coming in, which is good because we just database those reports as, get to it for another day. We try to, even John White and I laughed about this one evening, that you can get, as a researcher, we can get really overwhelmed at which direction. So we just have to pick a lane, and right now our lane is focused on this ChemWeb material. That's what we're focusing on right now.
Can I ask you, have you got any reports about the ChemWebs global, or is it mainly in America?
It isn't, mainly in America. We are having several reports from coast to coast, no pun intended. But we were having
George Norrie fans.
That's right. Shout out to George there. We're having reports from coast to coast. And then we had some reports from the UK. We also have a report from the UK. A gentleman was saying that, there was a day where it heavy chemtrail 2 or 3 days, and then it had a little bit of rain. And then the outside of his window was, dust, not just typical rainwater, that kind of dried up. It was looked like, salt. So we were trying to see if we could get, him to clean the window, and then see if it happens again, and then take some of those, scrape that window and see if we can find out what's in there, because obviously it's coming, it would be coming from the rain, we would think. You understand how hard this is, because as I had mentioned in the first part of this show, what the EPA's comment was on the high levels of barium associated with southwest Arkansas. They admitted that the high levels were unusual and high of barium, but proving the source. I mean, they're saying it tongue-in-cheek and wink.
Right, yeah, that's like...
Go ahead, try to prove. Now they're going to admit, these are pretty high levels. But do you know the source? And that's the old adage right there, Have you caught a chemtrail? Have you caught what's coming out of a chemtrail? Have you successfully identified just one of these planes?
Oh yeah, I fly up on my plane all the time with an air meter and stand behind the chemtrail plane. Yeah.
So you see, this is source is going to be our main issue, and we have to prove first. There's prove like what's in the soil, what's in the ChemWeb, what's in the water. Once we prove, now can we prove source? But I'll say this: anything that's synthetic, and this is like, to me, this is chemistry 101. If it's synthetic, I know that the Earth isn't manufacturing it.
Yeah, exactly.
The Earth doesn't manufacture synthetic polyurethane nanofibers.
Yeah.
Or whatever else they are. It doesn't manufacture that. So at least we know that, then at least we can rule out what the source is. We can rule out that it's not Mother Earth.
I just wanted to John White had to run, but he left us a little note that I figure I better read on the air. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on what he's saying here. But he says, he needs to run. Put these guys on your radar, arborgen.com. While Monsanto will feed the world with their aluminum-resistant seeds, Arborgen will replant the world with their GM trees. CEO spent 18 years at Monsanto. Could you elaborate a little bit on what does he mean by that?
Okay. Arborgen is a genetically modified tree corporation. And
it's like it's like a GMO corn, but for forests.
yes.
Aw.
And it's interesting because, and now I'm sorry, forgive me, there was a woman who wrote in, and I'm sorry, I don't recall the state, but she was saying, you know what, when they do clear cutting, right? And she drives by this area of forest, I believe once a month or twice a month, and this is what she noticed. They do clear cutting, and then they do the planting, and then the pine trees grow, et cetera. And she noticed, she said, this is really strange. She noticed that these trees, after clear cutting, grew faster and bigger, and all looked really uniform as far as size. And we know when we plant reforestation, I guess, when we go in and clear cut and then plant, everything grows at a little different height and width, right?
Of course.
When you look at a natural forest, everything's, it's not exactly cohesive. And what made her notice it was that everything was in exact rows. Well, and so it didn't catch my attention at that moment, because when they go to replant, they do something similar with real trees. But these grew faster, greener, and in her opinion, didn't look real. And that was a big red flag. And we tracked it back to Arborgen, and Arborgen, A-R-B-O-R, Arborgen, I should say, is a GMO tree. And isn't it interesting that the COA worked at Monsanto for nearly 2 decades? So, and what does Monsanto have to do with it? Well, they're a GMO seed.
Yeah.
So now this Arborgen, and basically when you look at a big picture, again, I can speak so much to this, but for those who are listening, yes, go and check it out. It'll blow your mind. Are they trying to, and this is a bold statement I'm going to make, but are they, and I don't care who they is at this point, there is a they, are they trying to change the entire ecosystem of this planet, including humans?
Yeah.
Or is that a side effect? And you guys know my research, I have always added the statement that maybe it's a side effect. I've always given credence to that.
Right.
But this is getting harder and harder for me to say that. Because our DNA is changing, the ecosystem. I'm sorry, what are we doing? We're doing genetically modified salmon. We're in the sea. We're on the land. We're in the air. This GMO.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
And isn't there a term for that? Terraforming? Is that related to that?
Well, terraforming is something that I came across, and I did some research on it, and I will continue to do research on it because it's fascinating. The planet to terraform would be Mars, and that's the data at NASA and some other terraforming articles and data regarding terraforming, which is exactly that. Yeah, but terraforming, when you think of terraforming, is it's cloud seeding, it's creating atmosphere, it's creating rain, and then that creates substance on the planet that creates growth and so forth and so forth. So you're basically creating an environment for life. And life form. And so you can, I guess planets will naturally go in that direction, but it takes a long time. And so with terraforming, you could speed up the process of growth on a planet and clouds and rain, this and that. So the information is pointed at Mars and related to Mars. But yet, if you look into it on another level of what they're using, how they're doing it, how they want to do it, how they propose to do it, let's say, it seems it seems to correlate with what they're doing on Earth. And then you think to yourself, well, wait a minute, Earth worked before.
Right.
Rain.
Yeah.
We had that. So why would you terraform Earth?
Well, it's obviously not working for those people, then, is it?
Well, it's not. Yeah. There's more profit in re-terraforming for them.
Well,
apparently.
why would you reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
So there might be a reason.
Yeah.
For all I know, they're doing all of this right now, and this is a scary thought, and I don't
Mm.
want to fear monger, but could it be they're doing all of this testing in the last 50 years to see if it actually works and this and that, in the case that we do have a polar shift and it's all wiped out anyway, so they can terraform and speed the planet back up to life source?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that could be it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, why not? Why we already have a good planet, or what? Or what if they're doing it because of a nuclear fallout, where 3/4 of the planet gets absolutely destroyed, so they can come in and terraform and speed the process of the planet, having growing, getting back to quote unquote normal.
Isn't that the Hegelian dialect of create a problem, create a solution? Yeah.
It most certainly is.
Problem, reaction, solution.
But I do know this at the top of the list, as far as what they're doing. This is a war on our mind all the way around the block.
Yeah, it's definitely an information.
It's a war on our mind all the way around the block. And at this point, I would like people to know, I'd like the audience to know, I'd like the world to know that you are an empowered spiritual being, and what you are experiencing, what we are experiencing right now, is we are experiencing an evolutionary quantum leap of human consciousness.
Yeah.
That is where we are. That is what is happening to us. We are speeding up. We can comprehend and hold more and more information all the time. We are growing. This is what's happening. We are becoming activated. You know that junk DNA? Don't you dare call that junk DNA. My DNA is not junk.
Right?
It's good stuff, and we're activating it via spontaneous whatever.
Yeah, consciousness.
Right? And so what we need to hold on to more than anything is the idea that as we one by one start to hold hands, and I've got to tell you, the emails that I'm getting now from people who are following the protocol for chemtrails and this and that, the language is even changing with what I see in those emails. We bow to one another now. They'll say, no, I'll say, thank you so much for taking the time to do this for us. We really appreciate it. They'll come back and say, no, thank you for the work that you're doing. We must all work together. Yeah. It's that consciousness is changing. Occupy is a consciousness change right there. Anyone that's associated and standing in line, as you all well know, the global revolution is on, and it continues. All these facets, all these groups, the environmentalists, people who are studying chemtrails, GMO, animal rights, Occupy, it's all coming together. It's all unifying. We're all being able to come out of our little holes and now, whoa, and unify that we're all on the same page. And that same page is, this is a war on our mind. When you lie to me, when you deceive me, when my government has become tyrannical, when you're putting things in place and agendas beyond my control, beyond my knowledge, and I mean, when I say I mean we the people, you are playing head games with me at the very least, and you are throwing my natural instincts and intuitions off. You are creating imbalance. And if you look at any good book that defines what abuse is in a marriage, that's exactly what it is. It's where the one or the other who's the abuser. These are the tactics that they do. The abuser, it's abuse 101, man.
It is.
The abuser sets out to throw their, let's just say husband and wife at this point. I'm not trying to get down on males, but let's say it's the husband who's the abuser, and 90% of the cases are. So let's use that. So the husband sets up a molding. He will mold the wife into his, how he needs her to be. He will set up and mold the wife, and then he will lie and control and do this and do that to create imbalance. So the wife no longer has an intuition anymore, no longer has an instinct, doesn't know if she's coming or going. At that point, he can abuse her, continually abuse her, and raise the bar on his abusiveness because she's imbalanced now. She's way off. Her psyche, it's a war on her mind. So, and that's all it is. It's a war on her mind to the day he hits her. And then what does she do? She hides it. Because he tells her, he's molded her to believe that she's stupid and she's less than and she's not important. And if she tells her girlfriends, no one's going to believe her. And he keeps her what? Isolated. So she doesn't have her friends now. All those high school girlfriends she used to hang out with, she doesn't hang out with. She can't show up with a black eye time and time again and not say it's her husband. So she's not really necessarily in denial. She's been shut out and isolated. And this is, in my opinion, this is what our leaders, our governments, and our corporations have attempted to do to humanity. Isolate us, keep us separate from one another, because what? You're crazy, right?
Yeah.
And we all have those social implications. But you know what, people, I have to say to you, share with you, at this point, I don't really give a rat's ass if people think I'm crazy. Don't care. Find your like minds, socialize with your like minds, support one another, love one another, get out of your head and think with your heart. If you're going to work in these dark areas, in these dark corners, do your research, bring it forward, share it with others, and think love with your heart. Do this with your heart, because you will manifest, and this is what John White stands on, and so do I, and he's really been good with this and backs this up for me as well. I know Bernard and Yvonne and Trevor, you all are subscribed to this as well. We can manifest the healing that's above science. We don't need to wait for science to come up with all these cures. We can manifest. And, you know, Yvonne, you have your healing center. We can heal these things from the root.
Yeah, with love.
And, right? And wouldn't you say, Yvonne, with your healing center, wouldn't you say, and if not, please do tell, but in my opinion, what I observe with myself and others around me is healing starts in the mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Because our mind is so powerful. We manifest disease.
Yeah.
You know, we manifest discourse. That's what dis-ease is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Right? And Bernard, wouldn't you also, with the work that you do in the healing work and all the people, Miriam Delicados and everything, don't they subscribe to this as well?
Absolutely. And it really is our state of mind. And I can't help but bring the conversation full circle to the examples that I have seen on exactly what you're talking about on heavy chemtrail days. And what I'm seeing is, and this is, you know, let's just say that not everybody I know here in Roanoke subscribes to chemtrails as being toxic or hurtful or anything like that. But let's just say that from what I have seen, those who I would consider, I don't want to use the term negative, but maybe caught up in their own drama, who allow a little bit of that victim mentality into their psychology, are always the ones that have breathing problems on chemtrail days, allergy problems. They end up getting sinus infections, you know, all these things. And that's not to say that the chemicals in chemtrails aren't toxic, but for me, I don't ever really feel anything except maybe irritability.
Right.
I don't get that. Everyone knows I suffer from migraines, but it's usually because of the seasonal change. I get it. You know, when it's like 80 degrees in the afternoon and 30 degrees at night, I'll get a migraine that day because of the abrupt temperature change. But as far as like these prolonged illnesses that I've been seeing around with people, it's usually they have more of a victim mentality instead of a trusting, loving, you know, non-fear-based living condition, for lack of a better term. You know, so I think I agree with that 100%, that if you think if you feel vitality, you're not going to get as sick.
Well, you're making a clear point, and when you create a victim society, you can control them, and that's again what I was sharing with the husband and wife abuse system. See, once you create you make your that in that example, he made the wife the victim. Once she's a victim, she's 100% controllable.
Yeah.
She has no power. And so we created a society of victims who are strung out on something much worse than heroin, in my opinion. Strung out on money and strung out on drama.
Mm.
Yeah.
And and when the proverbial shit hit the fan in 2008, it left a lot of people just hanging in midair. No bank account, I can't retire, lost my house, lost my car, don't have a credit card, can't get credit. Oh, no, the sky is falling. What do I do? And this was a great shift for us because, again, if we can take accountability, and this is a hard one at there's many levels of accountability. And if we can just take accountability for the one, which means me, if I can take accountability and clean up my own little mess that I've created and own that mess, then I can now join forces with the next person and through experience, strength, and hope, help them to get around the bend, clean up their own mess. Now we've got two because it starts with one. Yeah. And I think that you're absolutely right, that the drama and the forecasting of drama and fear-mongering and all the rest of it, blah, 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 I think that it grows its own sort of dimensional crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not helpful because drama causes stress. There's no solution in drama.
No, there's not. And I got to point out, and I'm going to be like brutally honest here, and I'll probably piss off a few people, but I can't help but notice that the people that, let's say, example, on Facebook that are constantly posting fear porn, and for those of you that don't know what fear porn is, it's basically something with capital letters in the title with lots of exclamation points, and usually the story has to do with the end of the economy, the end of the world, an earthquake, a tidal wave, something that really you have no control over, and that's the reality of it is you don't have control over it at that moment, so why are you emotionally linking yourself with this? And, hey, I did it for the first year of GIC, I admit it, but what I'm noticing is that these people who are constantly posting fear porn, who are constantly proposing end-of-the-world scenarios or, the solar flares are going to destroy the grid tomorrow. I think I just saw one today about that. Oh, and now Hoagland is talking about the comet or the asteroid coming by on Thursday, I think. And meanwhile, it's
that'd be nice.
900 to 1 chance that it's going to hit us. But the reality of it is that those people, when you meet them, and I've spoken to them on the phone. I've gotten to know some of these people. I'm not saying all. Some. They're the ones that are on disability, that have tons of illnesses, either they have back problems or neck problems or depression problems, or these are the people that have manifested that illness and they're clinging to it through this fear pornography. So you have to ask yourself when you see these things, it's a great example of how it affects a person's health. And again, I'll say most of these people are the ones that are sitting in their little chair, in their little rocking chair, that are basically, they can't do anything. They have no life, so therefore they're perpetuating fear porn to get attention. And I can't help it but notice again, Richard Hoagland was wrong about Comet Elenin, and now he's right back talking about this UA, whatever the new one is. I forgot what it's called, something 55 or whatever that's coming. But I'm like, okay, so you were wrong with Elenin. That didn't teach you a lesson, so you're going to go right back out and get on Coast to Coast and freak everybody out about this next one? I'm like, boy. Go ahead, Yvonne.
I just wanted to say, I'm sat here listening and going back to the man and wife scenario that Roxy was saying. I've been there firsthand. I've said it on before a couple of times, and it's not a judgment on people. And before I lose my point is education is the key. And it's easy to get drawn into that scenario when people are playing mind games. And it's really, really bad when you're in it, and it's hard to get out of it. And all you want is someone to come and rescue you, etc. Anyway, it's your job to get yourself out of it. And education is the key. You have to. It's like chemtrails and everything else. If you educate yourself on something, your mind gets out of that mindset, and you start looking on the brighter side and things. It took me a few years to get out of it myself, and now I'm so the opposite. People that know me say, "How are you so positive?" And it's like I keep educating myself, and you will never get back down into that slum again type thing. So yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Yvonne, because it's very important for people to know that you can get out of it. You know, and the same thing goes for the population at large. You know, we're so in denial of what's happening, you know, with chemtrails or, you know, whatever, genetically modified organisms, etc.
Well, because that's the fear. The fear causes, you know, the denial. You know, afraid to look at something, and we all have something in our life that we're afraid of. There are different levels of fear. You know, it's kind of like when you take your car in, it broke down or something, and I know I do this, and then it's like, and I ask them a couple of questions, like, well, do you know how much it's going to cost to fix? And they're like, you know, well, we'll take a look at it, and we'll, you know, did you want us to give you an estimate before you call, and this and that, blah 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 blah, you know, and okay, yeah, you know, give me a call, let me know what the estimate's going to be. Yeah, that'd be great, you know, and then all day long I'm like, I don't want the call.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what I mean? I don't want to know. I don't know. I don't know what I don't want to know, but I have to know. Because then from there, what do I need to do? I need to take accountability, make a decision. Do I want them to fix it or not? Do I want to take it somewhere else or not? You know, do I want to do the footwork that I need to do to get the car fixed? So we do it at different levels, you know, and sometimes, you know, you'll see it. This is predominant with people who are addicts and alcoholics. There's always one member in that family that just doesn't want to know, so they make excuses like, you know, so they drink 17 martinis before noon, but they're fine because they did the yard work and they cleaned the pool, so it's okay. You know, it's like the denial is because once you wake up, isn't there a chore to be done?
Yeah, then you have to do the work.
Then you got to do the work, you know. And I just have to say, I got an email real quick from Jerry Neiman. I just got 2 emails. Breaking news here. Jerry Neiman is the one who's also had some tremendous photos of the airplanes with heavy chemtrail, where we're getting the chem webs from and the whole 9 yards. And 2 days ago, he asked me for the photos that I had taken at Evergreen. And so, anyway, long story short, he just put one photo up in the email, and the photo of the one that the plane that was chemtrailing in McCook, Nebraska, that he got a really good shot of, and it's an exact match.
Cool.
Really?
Yes. The other is, and this is great news for Jerry, I'm not going to get into the long story of this, but Jerry just sent me the neurotoxicity report, because Jerry's now getting recognized finally for having been poisoned. It's a whole other story. I'm not going to get into it. But on this is for the EPA's comments, and what we found is it's DOD herbicide. And the EPA also emphasized that dioxin damages the immune system directly and indirectly. This is the worst of all immune damage scenarios.
Wow.
So we will follow up with Jerry on that, and et cetera, et cetera. But again, you know, I bet you this is a long report, and I've got to read through it. But I guarantee you somewhere it's going to say, well, but we don't know the source.
Of course.
So you've got no one to see. But this is really good for Jerry now, because now Jerry can finally. Did I say finally?
Finally.
Get legal representation. Finally. So, you know, good for Jerry, and good for Jerry Neiman's work. He deserves a lot. The man is very, very ill. But anyway, that's a plus. I think it's so interesting. I got the email about 11 minutes ago. Trevor, you had something to say.
Did
Trevor?
you?
I did.
I heard you say, and then I sort of said, oh, breaking news. So.
My microphone's been on mute the whole time. So
well then see,
you don't hear my illness.
Was it you? Okay. Or either that. I thought I heard Trevor. I'm hearing things, but
actually, what I was going to say was, and you know, we've got about 5 minutes left on the show, but let me say, and of course, I'll give Roxy the floor to wrap up her talk. But what I'm going to say is that if you are in any doubt about chemtrails, about who's doing it, why, when, what's in it. The reality of it is that it exists, and that's the bottom line. All you have to do is look up. Just look up. You'll see them. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe next week. Maybe you'll see it for 4 days in a row. But the reality of it is that your eyes are not lying to you, and that's the point I'm trying to make, is that I rebuke any kind of person that would try to tell me or debunker that what I'm seeing with my own eyes is not there. And that's what we all have to hold on to. Don't tell me I'm not seeing extended time release trails that are dropping stuff on us. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. It is not an illusion. Right. It's all an illusion, but that's a whole metaphysical conversation. But the reality,
I also had some posts today of some people who are going to be doing some chemtrail activism out in the streets. Through one of them from Florida, actually, Raven Sellers, I believe her name is, but I didn't get an address from her. So if anyone wants to go to Raven Sellers' page on Facebook, or just come to Chemtrails Kill, it's on there, and I'm sure she'll answer the question at some point. But if you are doing these types, there are several of us who have extensive chemtrail pamphlet information. Ours is located right on the front of our website. You click it, download it. You can download it in color, black and white, send it via email. It's got hyperlinks if you do it that way. Feel free to post it on your websites, etc. So if you are doing that, good for you, good on you. Get a copy of What in the World Are They Spraying. We have one click on our website. Click and go ahead and purchase it. Mike Murphy does not mind if you make duplications. It's not copyright infringement to him. He just rather get the word out. So in other words, your toolbox is full when you get out in the streets. And like I said, there are other organizations who have very good information that you can download and hand out to those people in the streets. That's number one. Number two, please, people, take care, take heed of the whole conversation that we've had today. This has been really good for all of us to remind one another, regardless of the fear porn and the drama, and it is just, you know what, people, if we're going to do this, let's stick together and let's stick with the solution. And the solution is you and I. We are the solution. The powers that be, I'm thinking we're throwing them off track, because no matter what, okay, so they've got all this chemtrail stuff and they're telling us, then of course the war's on our mind, and they're telling us that it doesn't exist and this and that, blah, 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 blah. But you know what they did in the interim? They brought in the last year millions of people together. And that's all that really counts, and we need to really focus on that. When we have these types of problems in the world, it unifies us. It brings us together. We are one, and we are all fighting for the same truth and honor and disclosure. And let's rip that veil down. Rip it down.
The more that they talk about us, the stronger we get as well.
That's right. And you know what? We have each other. Yes, the truth can be really alarming and really freaky and really sci-fi and trippy. But you know what? We have to remember, we all have each other. And I'd rather know the truth and die knowing the truth, or die for a reason and a cause and my purpose, than sit around watching, I'm not going to name a show. Because I don't want to get in trouble. Something that has to do with housewives, and and drink my martinis, and then go out and buy Gucci bags so I can pretend I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. They're pretending. We are the 99%. Remember
Yay!
that. We are the 99%.
What does democracy look like? This is what democracy looks like.
And like George Carlin said, you're not a part of the 1%. You will never be a part of the 1%. It's their club. They don't want you in it.
And it's
so
private.
Stop trying to be one of them.
Hey, if you haven't been inside of a Bilderberg meeting lately, you're probably never going to.
Yeah, you're never going to get. Anyway, we need to wrap it up, guys. We've only got a few minutes. Roxy, do you want to share your guest for this Friday, or do you want to wait?
No, I will want to wait, please.
Okay. Anyway, so next week we got a really good show for you as well. The team from Collective Evolution, you guys, that movie that's out there, Collective Evolution Part 2. The team, either one or all of them, will be joining us next week to be talking exactly what we were talking about a little bit today, the Collective Evolution. So make sure you join us here on GIC Radio for the Just Bernard Show next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. As well, please remember that we are funded by your contributions. Please consider making a donation at thegic.org. Just click on the Donate Today tab and or the Donate tab. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. It's been a great show. Bye-bye now. Is there an atmospheric condition, or are we just finally noticing the differences, and that's as far as we've gotten so far?
Well, that's a really, really good question. To start with, I started filming those types of clouds that I know what you're talking about. It's a line that goes across the sky, then it spreads out and sort of hangs, and then all of a sudden you see these wispies, basically almost like rain going all the way down to the ground. And they're huge. These things are huge. And I started filming those a couple of years ago. Those are actually some of my very first photos of a chemtrail. And then I didn't see them for a very long time. I just never saw them. And those types are coming back again. Is there a difference in what they're doing? That's a real hard answer, because what we do know is that there are many types of programs out there. This much we know. We know that they're doing weather modification, cloud seeding, geoengineering.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show, everybody. This is Dr. Bernard Alvarez with my lovely co-host Yvone Wykes and Reverend Trevor Knott. And we're speaking to our Joan of Arc of Chemtrails, where Ms. Roxy Lopez is going to be joining us for the rest of the show today for the next hour. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Roxy, and I don't know if there's really an answer to this, but I wanted to touch on the fact that, day before yesterday, or maybe 3 days ago, we had a huge spray day here, and I posted tons of pictures. As a matter of fact, one of them was picked up by someone that made a poster out of it. But one of the things that I noticed when it's that heavy, and I don't know if it has to do with the fact that it's such a heavy spray day, but there seems to be specific trails that literally look like they're falling down. I mean, you can see the streams falling down. It looks like little wisps coming down to the earth and falling. Has anyone figured out, is there something different in that?
Can be, maybe trying to clean up this section of the planet or whatever. I don't know. I don't rule that out. Or they're trying to test a biochemical on the public. There are so many programs, so many companies, so many planes. We've got Evergreen in the picture. We're identifying Boeing after Boeing, airplanes. A gentleman called on one of the shows I was doing with Anthony J. Hilder, and he flat out said that he had some information because he knew of 857 Boeing planes, new planes that were getting retrofitted for aerosol canisters. And that he could document it, he could prove it to us.
Yes, I remember correctly.
Right?
He was in the military, right?
Yeah. And by the way, we were all going to get in touch with him, and I did respond to him, and gave him my phone number and all the rest of it. I have never spoken to the man, so I don't know where the man went, But now, when they see it, just the normal person walking out to the car and seeing, they just assume it's a spider web. And so he sent me some photos, and this is very thick, and I compare it to, and we just had Halloween, so this will be fresh in everybody's mind, the webbing, the polyester, whatever that is, webbing that we buy to stick on our plants in our house for Halloween. It looks just like that. It's really thick, and it doesn't even look real. It looks fake. It doesn't look like a spider web. Anyway, if people want to see pictures of that, there is my latest video covering this, and the call to action is on our website. It's on the front page of our website, as a matter of fact. We've moved it there, and we're going to move the call to action there on the front page later on tonight after we get some information about the where, why, and how. But that'll be up there tonight. So anybody that wants to see what this ChemWeb material looks like, they can go there. But let's talk about October 2010. What happened in October 2010 is, as you well know, we work with Caroline Carter out in Cyprus, the country of Cyprus. Caroline, I'm still, he's still on the list of people to get in touch with. So, in other words, what we're seeing in the sky, if we see a fluffy one or a milky one or one that's going across the sky and dripping straight to the ground, all the way to the ground, whether it be a crisscross, a tic-tac-toe, several lines in a row, several planes doing it all at once, what is it? We don't know. There's just so many different programs at this point. I don't have an answer, so and I don't know that we're ever going to have an answer. So at this point, I divert my attention to what's in the soil, what's in the water, which brings me to what we're doing right now.
Yes, yeah. Why don't you share a little bit with us, as far as ChemWebs? What is, first of all, can you describe a ChemWeb for us?
October of 2010, a gentleman named Jerry Neiman from McCook, Nebraska, was sending me quite a few emails about a web substance that he was finding in his, trees. And, of course, most people think it's spiderweb material.